Let's take a look at how the JSE is performing this hour. The stock exchange, the local stock exchange that is, strengthening to a record high on the back of strong results from the large retailers listed on the exchange. The market has also been bolstered by the Finance Minister's maiden medium budget policy statement. On the international front, discussions between US President Joe Biden and China's Xi Jinping have positively impacted on Asian markets. Joining us now to discuss all of this is Zwelakhe Mnguni, Chief Investment Officer at Benguela Global Fund Managers. Mnguni, thank you very much for your time. The JSE reaching an historic high yesterday. This is the milestone, 70,000 points. What was driving this, and can this positive streak continue for some time?
Thank you, Tony. The JSE, as you say, went to record high. Part of the number that basically drove that is essentially some of the large cap stocks. So Richmond and Naspers, those stocks have been surging quite strongly, and they've basically contributed because of their weight in the JSE index. They basically contributed to some extent the improvement. But nonetheless, I think we've seen quite a big improvement in sentiment across global markets, and particularly South Africa is one of the beneficiaries, and you quite correctly pointed out. There has been positive sentiment following the Minister Gorongwana's medium-term budget speech, where it looked like he will continue with fiscal discipline. I think that was something that was weighing on the back of the mind of market participants.
Well, the rand, though, Mnguni, not performing, or should I say benefiting as much from the stronger performance of the JSE, still in the mid-15 rand to the dollar range. What could be driving its weakness today?
Yeah, certainly the rand hasn't been much of a beneficiary of late. As you remember, about a month ago, we were probably around 14.50, and we've since weakened to that level. We are better than the 15.40 level, I think, that we touched 2 weeks ago. I think one of the reasons is that as you've seen, the commodity prices have been coming down to some extent, and we are a commodity exporter. And because of that, our forex market is starting to become a little weaker because we're getting less forex in the market, so people are selling less dollars to get rands. That's the first thing. On the other side, we are selling more rands to basically buy things like crude. That is also contributing because now you're selling your rands that we can sell. But if one looks at the bigger picture, we haven't seen enough foreign direct investment coming into the country that has basically supported our market and our bond market. Our yields are among the highest in the world, and the JSE outside the commodity sector, the financial and industrial sector have been relatively cheap compared to their peers in global markets. So certainly the rand hasn't received that benefit because there hasn't been quite a strong demand for our local currency.
Yeah, let's talk about transaction capital. These are now the specific company news that we're looking at. Transaction capital, that is. These are the guys that finance the taxi industry, the purchasing of taxis. Yeah. They've released a very healthy set of results. Take us through.
Indeed, they had quite a stellar performance. Their earnings were up, I think, over 200%. And certainly the transaction that they did to buy We Buy Cars, the online vehicle retailer, I think that has helped quite a great deal. That has contributed significantly to the growth in the business. But certainly they've executed very well. If you look at their interest margins, you look at the volume of business. Certainly after the 2020 downturn that was driven by COVID, we've seen a resurge in demand for their products. So both on the risk services, what they call risk services, where they buy loan books and basically try and recover. And on the other side, on the taxi finance, we also saw nice pickup in volume there. So they do very, very well. Their assets have grown to about 32 billion, I think, from about 22 last year. So they do very well.
Yeah. Brilliant performance. Finally, let's look at the special risk insurer, that's Sasria. They'll be updating us today, the nation that is, on just how much they have been able to pay out following the July unrest. Without new government support, at some point, I remember there was talk that they could potentially go bankrupt. In your view, what could this mean for business continuity for the affected businesses in the instance where they are unable to pay out insurance claims? I know that the finance minister recently said that there would be billions pumped into Sasria in order to make sure that they are able to pay these claims.
Yeah, certainly for business, I mean, it will affect their liquidity because they have to rebuild their businesses if they don't get paid out. But I think what they said, I think it was in September when they said they will accelerate the payout of the claims that are less than R1 million. So the smaller businesses would probably benefit from that to a large extent. And then they said they would probably pay as a start about 30% of the large claims. So today they'll probably update us on how far they've gone with that. And I think they had registered most of the claims. But you're quite in saying that if they didn't get government support, they would probably have gone bankrupt. I mean, they have probably just under 9 billion in assets. And I think the claims, certainly as measured through the loss to GDP, came to about 50 billion. So if they didn't get the support from the government, or at least the National Treasury, they wouldn't have been able to support those claims. So I think the 11 billion rand that was provided by the Minister of Finance last week would probably go a long way towards supporting that.
Yeah, Zwelakhe Mnguni, thank you very much for your time, sir. He is the Chief Investment Officer at Benguela Global Fund Managers.